Hi, Dr. Hall. My name is Maddie Marone, and I'm performing a lower limb exam on Mamie Henshaw. Okay, so Mames, what I want you to do is just walk in place for me. Yep, just keep walking, then go ahead and stop whenever you want. So after I have them walk in place, I'm just looking at her feet to see if she's flat-footed or has high arches. Looking at her knees to see if she's knock-kneed or bow-legged, because that'll affect all kinds of stuff in her lower limbs. And then I'm just checking her hips to make sure that there's no pelvic rotation. Nico. Okay, and then the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to have Mamie stand on one leg and see her single leg balance. So go ahead and stand on one leg for me. Since Mamie's a healthy young individual, she should be able to hold this for 5 minutes. If you're a Division I college athlete, you should be able to hold it for 5 minutes with your eyes closed. So you can go ahead and drop your leg. Oh, actually, don't drop your leg because we're going to do a single leg squat. So basically here I'm just looking for if there's any like internal rotation or adduction of the knee. So go ahead and do your squat for me. A little rocky, but we'll get her there. And then after that, we're going to have Mamie do her calf stretch. So what I want you to do is just stand by the wall and then put your foot like right about here so you have some space to bend that knee. And then this foot behind you, just make sure that it's straight. And then put all your weight down, lock your knee, be on the outside of your foot, and then touch your big toe down. And then externally rotate your tibia. And what you want to do is try and get your knee over your toe by bending this leg but keeping this heel on the floor. And Mamie can do that so her calf length is good. And then I'm going to bring Mamie over to the table. If you want to go ahead, we're going to do a Thomas test. So whichever leg is hurting you, Mames, pick up the opposite one, the one that's not hurting you. And then like this, give it a hug. And then lay back on the table. Okay, so what I'm looking for with the Thomas test is to make sure that her opposite leg touches the table because this like indicates psoas length, which hers does. So hers is negative, but if it were positive, it could lead to, it could be a sign for impingement or a labral tear. So you can go ahead and lay this one down, and then go ahead and just slide back a little more for me, please. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is have Mamie do a bridge. So go ahead and put your feet on the table and lift your butt up straight in the air. Bring it back down. And the purpose of this is to check her medial malleoli, which hers are a little off. But that just shows that there's a little bit of asymmetry in her pelvis. So the next thing that I'm going to do is check her ASIS, which this one's a little bit higher than this one, so that would probably be why this one was a little shorter, her medial malleolus. Then what I'm going to do is, is it okay if I palpate your pubic bone? I'm going to palpate her pubic bone and just checking the ridge to make sure that it's straight across. Hers is a little bit messed up just because she has a little asymmetry in her pelvis. Then I'm going to palpate for her psoas to see if it's tender, and palpate her greater trochanter to see if it's tender. And tenderness just means that the body's not happy with the load that we're placing on it. And then the next thing I'm going to do is check internal and external rotation of her hip. So we're just going to go in and out. This just sees how much like room her femur has in her acetabulum, which it looks good. So from here we're going to do 90-90. To check hamstring length, which it should be at 70, but maybe it's a little below that. So her glutes are a little weak. And then we're going to do the single leg raise, which just is testing the neural tissue, which maybe is still a little bit tight. So yeah, that's we need to work on that. The next thing that we're going to do is the quadrant test. So I'm going to pick your leg back up, Mamie. And basically here, if her Thomas test was positive, the quadrant test would be really important because we're listening for a click and a pop in her hip. If I hear a click and a pop, then that means she has a labral tear. But if I don't hear one, then it's most likely just impingement. So then we'll check for hyperextension in her knees. So just like this. If her knees aren't able to hyperextend, then she walks with an abnormal gait, which does a whole lot of damage to it. Puts your legs in flexion and adduction, all that good stuff that just like throws off your whole entire body, which is terrible. Okay. Then we're going to check for medial patellar glide. So her patella should be able to move 2 centimeters medially, actually in all directions, which hers does, so that's good. Then we're going to do the Lockman's test, which is for your ACL. If someone had come in and thinks that they've injured their ACL or whatever, this test, if you feel a clunk, then their ACL is intact. But if you don't, then if their tibia is sliding out from underneath their femur, then chances are that it's their ACL is their problem. So then we're gonna check for to see if she has any PFJ. So go ahead and flex your quads maybe. Okay, and then your VMO and your vastus lateralis should fire at the same time, which hers do, so we know that her patella is not her problem. And then we're going to test her MCL with the valgus test. So your MCL runs on the inside of your knee, so what we're going to do is apply force here and pressure here, and as long as her leg feels like it's bouncing back, then she doesn't have any issues with her MCL. Your McMurray's test is kind of like the quadrant test, but it's for your meniscus. So if there's a click and a pop with this test, then there's something wrong with her meniscus, a meniscus tear, but Mamie's good. So go ahead and lie on your side, Mamie, please. So this, we're just testing her ITB and the strength of her glutes. So the first is the PGM test. So I'm going to bring her hip into extension and a little bit of abduction in her foot, just a little bit of internal rotation. And I'm going to see if she can hold this position. So when I let go, she should be able to hold it if her glute strength is good and her ITB is okay. And then the next thing that we're going to do, go ahead and relax. We're going to bring this knee up to 90 degrees. And we're going to bend this knee. And her knee should be able to touch the table. That's the over test, and hers is negative because it touches the table, but if it was positive, it would just mean her ITB is really short. Go ahead and lay on your stomach, Mames. And then the Eli test just tests, excuse me, for tight quads, so her heel should be able to touch her butt.